Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El Rome.
And I'm Erin Viner.
In our top story, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced his commitment to working with U.S. President Donald Trump in order to advance peace in the Middle East. The Israeli leader made the pledge during an address by satellite to the annual gathering of the American-Israel Public Affairs Committee in Washington. He said Israel's hand is extended to all of our neighbors in peace, but he insisted that the Palestinians must recognize Israel's right to exist as a Jewish state, which they have long refused to do. Netanyahu had words of praise for the new Republican president. He expressed confidence that the unbreakable U.S.-Israeli partnership will prevent Iran from developing nuclear weapons, while at the same time confronting Tehran's aggression in the region.
Israel, the United States, and Russia have reportedly reached a consensus on the need to impede Iran's rising influence in Syria. A Kuwaiti paper cited an unnamed American official who claims that Washington and Moscow have agreed to Jerusalem's campaign of airstrikes against weapons shipments to Tehran's proxy, the Hezbollah terror organization. The parties also reportedly greenlighted the use of other Israeli defense tactics to keep advancing Islamist militias away from the Jewish state's northern border. Moreover, the tripartite plan is said to call for Israel's targeting of pro-Iranian forces in the south of Syria, accompanied by Russian pressure in the center and the north in further efforts to stabilize the war-torn Arab Republic. Iran has been involved in the Syrian civil war since its outbreak in 2011.
Meanwhile, Damascus threatened that the next Israeli airstrike on any targets in Syria will be met with Scud missiles. Lebanon's Al-Diyar newspaper said the message was delivered to Jerusalem via Moscow. The warning specified that the Syrian attacks would be launched at Israeli army bases, as well as the seaport and petrochemical plant in Haifa. Many analysts believe, though, the declaration is a hollow bluff made in a desperate attempt by Syrian President Bashar al-Assad to project an image of strength in his ongoing battle against opposition rebels and the Islamic State terrorists. Damascus has been heavily involved in the transfer of Iranian-made advanced weapons to Hezbollah terrorists in neighboring Lebanon.
In other news, the Senate confirmation of David Friedman as the U.S. ambassador to Israel is being greeted in both nations. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that Washington's newest envoy will be warmly received as a close friend. The 57-year-old bankruptcy attorney is taking up a position considered to be one of the most sensitive diplomatic assignments. He's one of President Trump's most trusted advisors and a longtime advocate of further Israeli development in Judea and Samaria. During his hearings on the Hill, Friedman told U.S. lawmakers that he's convinced that the Obama administration's nuclear deal with Iran presents an existential threat to Israel and a significant risk to the U.S. as well. The Republican-Jewish coalition strongly endorsed Friedman's appointment as an effective and important voice representing the United States. After congratulating his new colleague, Israel's ambassador, Ron Dermer, added that he's very much looking forward to working closely with his American counterpart to make the bilateral alliance even stronger than ever.
U.S. Vice President Mike Pence has again raised the issue of moving the United States Embassy to Jerusalem, the united capital of Israel. During his speech at the AIPAC conference, the second-in-command stressed that President Trump is still seriously considering the matter. Pence went on to say that America now has a leader who is unafraid to label its enemies as radical Islamic terrorists, and he repeated the administration's vow to defeat the Islamic State group. He also underscored Washington's commitment to Israel and referred to the Jewish state as America's most cherished ally.
Republican and Democratic lawmakers have taken decisive action against the boycott, divestment, and sanctions campaign against Israel. Bills have been submitted in both houses of Congress that would impose fines on any international governmental organizations or foreign countries engaged in such discriminatory practices. The legislation also orders the U.S. Export-Import Bank to reject any credit applicants with links to the hate campaign. Both texts also expressed Capitol Hill's strong objections to the UN Human Rights Council plan to create a blacklist of companies doing business with Israeli communities in Judea and Samaria. One of the bill's sponsors, Republican Senator Rob Portman of Ohio, said that the U.S. will not stand by idly when BDS tactics are used to isolate one of the nation's key allies. Now turning to the high-tech world, or I should say out of this world. The Israeli-Swiss Space Pharma partnership is providing the world's first ever commercial satellite laboratory. Until now, such research could only be conducted during costly missions by astronauts on international space stations. Since being launched into the galaxies by India's National Space Agency last month, the tiny Space Pharma satellite has been orbiting the Earth at about 300 miles an hour. The company's Israeli executives have just announced the completion of the first successful round of microgravity experiments. The itty-bitty facility is only about as big as a tissue box, yet the results are expected to make enormous contributions to a wide range of fields, from medicine to agriculture.
Christian worshippers are delighted that the site they revere as the tomb of Jesus has been reopened to the public. The ancient chamber is located in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. The Greek Orthodox, Armenian, and Roman Catholic denominations hold custodianship over the house of worship. Unfortunately, internal disputes regarding property rights held up restoration work for more than 200 years. It was only after Israeli authorities deemed the church to be unsafe for visitors that an international team of scientists and antiquities experts were called in. The $3.3 million project took 9 months to complete. The reopening ceremony was attended by many religious and political leaders, as well as dozens of Christian pilgrims visiting the holy city.
9 copper coins dating back to the year 614 have just been unearthed on the outskirts of Jerusalem. Archaeologists say the discovery reveals the fascinating Christian history of the site, which was once located along a main pilgrimage route to the Holy City. The ancient currency bears the images of 3 Byzantine emperors and was determined to have been minted in Constantinople, Antioch, and Nicomedia. The hoard's believed to have been stashed by anxious Christian residents ahead of the advancing Persian army. That invasion contributed to the end of Byzantine rule in the land of Israel just before the rise of Islam. The fleeing Christians never returned to retrieve their money, which remained safely tucked away for 1,400 years.
Israel, the light unto the nations, today faces attack from more than just rockets and terrorism. Calls to boycott, sanction, and divest from Israel, known as BDS, are a form of economic warfare that you can help to prevent. The Israel Allies Foundation has launched a public service campaign called Defeat BDS, offering educational tools and other resources that you can use to stand with Israel and help make a difference. Just visit the easy-to-use website at www.defeatbds.org.
That concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein, and we're here on a beautiful sunny day in our rooftop studio in Jerusalem. My guest today is member of Knesset Yehuda Glick. Yehuda, thank you for being on the show.
Shalom.
Yehuda, tell us a little about yourself. What is happening in the Knesset today?
As you know, Josh, that my office in the Knesset is called the Office Jerusalem of Peace, and that is because before the Knesset and in the Knesset, I'm connected to Jerusalem and connected to Jerusalem, which means the light to the world, peace. And that is what we're doing, the developing connections between the world, between all nations, between all people, trying to show that Jerusalem is a world projector, a world light to bring the word of God to the world.
You know, something that's unique about you is that you're a very busy man, you're a legislator, you write laws, you're a member of parliament, yet you put a lot of time into meeting with Bible-believing Christians, heads of churches and organizations, and having an interfaith dialogue on how we can stand together for Israel. Why is that so important to you?
Josh, as you know, I never had any plans to develop a political career. I one day found myself, God, after He saved my life, He put me into the Knesset. And in my eyes, what I understand that I'm not using the Knesset to promote my personal agenda. I'm there representing the mission that God appointed me, as I feel that really I'm fit to, and that is bringing the concept. The Jewish people have come back home. The words of the Bible have come out of the book, materialized, become a reality. We're back in Jerusalem, and our mission is to bring that world word to the world. That our mission is to bring that light to the nations. And therefore, every single Christian group that comes to Israel, that asks to meet with me, I always feel that I don't have any choice. I have an obligation to speak with them, and I enjoy it also.
We're now in the 50th anniversary of the reunification of the city of Jerusalem. You have a very impressive initiative reaching out to the churches, to the Christian leadership on behalf of this momentous date. Tell us a little about that.
We're celebrating this year, the 50th anniversary of the reunification. We're like 2,000 years off schedule because we know that Isaiah said that all the nations will be coming to Jerusalem. Now that we're here, just 50 years ago, right behind us, you would be able to see a barbed wire and a Jordanian soldier shooting at you. Today, Jerusalem is one city. And when we once again look at and as faithful people, we believe that if God brought us back to reunite Jerusalem, we have to bring that message, telling the world we are in a biblical era. Jerusalem is God's city of peace. Jerusalem is the biblical capital of the people of Israel, of the state of Israel, but of the concept of recognizing Jerusalem as a world center for God's word. And we are here to make sure that the world unites around that. So the covenant of Jerusalem, the Jerusalem covenant, which we are trying to promote, and we're trying to get really the world to sign that covenant and say to the world that Jerusalem is our capital. Jerusalem is the biblical capital chosen by God. Those who recognize it are relevant. Those who don't recognize it are not recognizing reality, because the fact is that for 2,000 years, every Jewish couple getting married would break a glass, if I forget you, Jerusalem. Every year on Passover, we would say next year in Jerusalem. Jerusalem is part of our soul. So we're trying to say that if we are back here in Jerusalem, it means that this is the words of the prophets are materializing and becoming a reality. And we're here. And that message is a message we have to pass on to the world. And I am sure that the world has their choice to recognize it. So I'm really calling you all, join us. Go into JerusalemofPeace.com and sign the covenant and become part of this international wave of connecting the world to God.
You're leading a movement to get hundreds of thousands of Christians to sign this document, yet this document also has a very special place in the heart of Jews around the world. It's one of the 2 documents that sit in the Chagall Hall at the Knesset, including the Declaration of Independence. Why is this such an important document for the state of Israel?
Because as I said before, the coming back, the return of the people of Israel to Jerusalem is not just to Israel. It's not just, like an immigration, people are transferring from one place to another. The return of the Jewish people to Israel is because God chose us to announce that Jerusalem is the light of the world, that Jerusalem is the city of his peace. And therefore, that covenant, which is right next to the Declaration of Independence of the State of Israel, sitting in the Knesset, which represents our sovereignty over Jerusalem, it also represents the fact that we announce and we declare, by the very fact that we're here, living peacefully with all our neighbors. But the fact that we are here is because God put us here, and he wants us to bring that light to the nations and unite the world around one Jerusalem and around one and only God. And that is why your mission is join us, be part of that one beautiful variety of colors of people announcing God is one. Join us and sign the Jerusalem covenant.
There are literally tens of millions of people watching this show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
Each and every one of you is now appointed as an ambassador of God, of the state of Israel, of God's chosen people. If you not only go ahead and sign that Jerusalem covenant, go into JerusalemPeace.com and sign it, but also send it around to your friends, to your neighbors, and you'll be part of a wonderful international godly wave. Because the very important vessel today of the temple we have to build is the hearts of mankind. And you, right now watching this program, have the privilege of being part of this wonderful godly phenomena, godly prophetical phenomena here in this biblical era. Who knows who's going to be the next Cyrus? Who knows who will be the modern builder of God's house of prayer for all nations?
Thank you, Yuda, for being on the show, and thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. Now back to the studio.
Up next, the return to Zion with Karin Assad.
Shalom and welcome to the Return to Zion with Karin Assad United Israel Appeal. I'm Eliezer Moody Sandberg, World Chairman of Karin Assad, the leading official fundraising organization for the State of Israel. After 2,000 years, we found the descendants of the lost tribe of Dan. Please help us welcome our brothers and sisters back home. God bless you from Jerusalem.
He will raise a banner for the nations and gather the exiles of Israel. He will assemble the scattered people of Judah from the four corners of the earth. Isaiah 11:12.
Christians and Jews have been bearing witness to the miraculous fulfillment of biblical prophecy. Since the reestablishment of the State of Israel in 1948, the ingathering of the Jewish people to the Holy Land has unfolded before our very eyes. Do not be afraid, for I am with you. I will bring your children from the east and gather you from the west. I will say to the north, give them up, and to the south, do not hold them back. Bring my sons from afar and my daughters from the ends of the earth. Isaiah 43:5. Today, Karin Assad has been tasked with completing one of the greatest examples of the fulfillment of this prophecy, the Aliyah of the Ethiopian Jews, the descendants of the tribe of Dan. On October 29, 2012, we were able to bring 250 new immigrants from Ethiopia to Israel. Karin Assad is not only tasked with paying the costs of their flights and accommodations, but also with their absorption into Israeli society. There are still around 2,000 Ethiopian Jews who pray daily to come back to the land of Israel, and we need your help to bring them home. We are reaching out to our Christian brothers and sisters and asking you to join us. In this new century, as in the old, Christians must reach out to the Jewish people and do their part to advance the fulfillment of the prophecy and defend the covenant. Help us bring the children of Israel back to the land of Israel. I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you. Genesis 12:3.
2,800 שנה של גלות. איך פערים אדירים בגיאוגרפיה, בציוויליזציה, לא יכולים להחליש את הכמיהה הזו, שהביאה כולנו לישראל, והיום גם אתם בבית. ברוכים הבאים.
בכל פעם שנפרדנו, הייתי אומר לכם שיגיע הרגע וניפגש בארץ ישראל. אחיי ואחיותיי, הרגע הגיע. מעומק ליבי אני מאחל לכם ברוכים הבאים למולדת. Come join Karin Assad in fulfilling biblical prophecy. Let's bless Israel together.
To donate and get information, call us at 1-800-505-1665 or visit our website at www.khisrael.org.
Some 2 years ago, the European Union passed a resolution calling for the labeling of Israeli products made in Judea and Samaria and the Golan Heights. To date, that resolution has been implemented by one country in Europe. It has been implemented by France. It is an anti-Semitic resolution. Anti-Semitic, why? And we must use that word very guardedly. anti-Semitic because there are 200 territorial disputes in the world. And the EU and France have chosen to single out one dispute, a dispute between Israel and the Palestinians. Even France has territorial disputes that are not resolved. No one's labeling French products, and France is not labeling products made by residents of Turkish Cyprus or residents of Chinese-dominated Tibet. Only the residents of one conflicted area, Judea and Samaria, and only one party in that dispute, the Jewish party. And beside all that, the French have chosen to label Jewish products from the Golan Heights. The Golan Heights in which there is not a single Palestinian living, and there is no longer any Syrian state with which we could trade territory for peace. So the labeling of Jewish products by France from the Golan Heights is completely gratuitous and prejudicial, and yes, anti-Semitic. And when you are choosing out and singling out Jewish goods for labeling, you are recalling a darker period in French history during the Nazi occupation, during the collaborationist government of Vichy, which labeled Jewish products and ultimately deported Jews to their death in the concentration camps. France should be disgraced and should be ashamed of itself for enacting such a prejudicial and anti-Semitic policy. And from here in Jerusalem, we call on France to remember its history, to remember justice, and to distance itself as soon as possible from this bigoted EU resolution.
Lift up your eyes and look around. All your children gather and come to you. The biblical prophecy is unfolding right before our very eyes. The people of Israel are returning to the Promised Land after 2,000 years of exile. But millions of Jews are still longing to come home. Anti-Semitism threatens many of the Jews. We must rescue them before the window of opportunity slams shut. Bless Israel by supporting Karin Assad United Israel Appeal, the leading official fundraising organization for the State of Israel. Together, we can fulfill the prophecy of the Bible.
Let us bless Israel together.
To donate and get information, call us at 1-800-505-1665 or visit our website at www.khisrael.org.
Please stay tuned for the ICEJ report from the International Christian Embassy, Jerusalem.
Once in a lifetime, there comes a moment that not only changes a nation, it changes the world. It was the realization of a 2,000-year-old dream that altered the course of history. During the turmoil of the Six-Day War, an opportunity emerged to reunify the single most important city in the world. And on June 7th, 1967, the dream became a reality.
השעה 10:20, ה-7 ביוני, ברגע זה אנו עוברים את שער האריות. הר הבית בידינו, כאן תמיד, הר הבית בידינו.
The Feast of Tabernacles 2017 marks 50 years since a divided city became united again.
You don't want to miss this historic and prophetic opportunity to celebrate with us 50 years of a reunited Jerusalem. Come to Jerusalem on the 6th to the 11th of October 2017 and celebrate with us the Feast of Tabernacles right here in the city of God.
Register today at feast.icej.org to receive an early bird discount.
The Feast of Tabernacles, presented by the ICEJ, unites the world in a celebration of God and His promises for Israel. This work would not be possible without the help of our amazing volunteers who have their own story to tell about God's faithfulness in their lives.
My name is Victoria. I come from the Philippines. I first heard of ICEJ from a friend of mine from church who came here as a volunteer last year. I went into icej.org and went into the website. I was just reading around and I was looking at all the efforts, the Isaiah 62 prayer. So I signed up for that. And then I saw the Aliyah projects. So I said, okay, I don't have a lot, but I will give what I have. And I said, anyway, Lord, I know no one can outgive you. So I'll just do this even if I could not afford it.
Victoria stepped out in faith and became a financial and prayer partner with the ICEJ.
When you partner with ICEJ, on Christmas, they will send you a card. And on that card was the Wailing Wall with the stars. When I first got it, I said, wow, it's the wall. I'm gonna go there by faith.
As her passion for Israel grew, she felt the call to come to Israel to volunteer at the Feast of Tabernacles.
When the registration opened for the volunteers, I was the first. I signed up right away and I absolutely had no money. But I said, never mind, by faith, Jesus will provide.
And by faith, Victoria made it to Jerusalem as a volunteer with the ICEJ.
I cannot say how much it has blessed my life. God just paved the way for me to be here. Not only the monetary provision, but the time to take off from work. Everything is just in place. And I said, Lord, thank you for just opening all the doors. A group of us went to the wall and I was just thinking, it looks the same, just like the picture. Normally, you would want to just ask for everything. But at that moment, I could not ask. I guess I just wanted to enjoy the presence. Just feel God's love from just looking at a picture and then now it's reality. It's like I could not believe that I was there. And I could not believe I walked 10,000 steps to get there. I always, even before I left, I share with the church that I want to come back next year. Before I left, I said, all of you, you have to desire to come. Because when you do desire, God provides.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan Elron.
And I'm Erin Viner reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Please join us again next week for all of your Israel updates.